Bill Belichick calls Jed York today, personally, says, I would like to be your head coach. What do you do?
You say thanks, but no thanks. Now, if he wants to be the defensive coordinator, I mean, Bill Belichick has had a rough few years here. Bill Belichick has asked defensive coaches to be his offensive coordinator. They drafted a quarterback in the first round that they now want to trade. They have not had.
Say that about Kyle too. I mean,
they've not had a single
quarterback in the first round. He did trade.
Yeah, but he has a quarterback. I mean, Patriots don't have a quarterback. The other one is that the Patriots haven't had a single player that they drafted get a second contract in years.
All right. Well, here's the thing,
And
Bill.
so
You don't have total control. You're not going to be the GM.
I'd rather have him. I mean, he's 70-something years old. I would rather have him be the defensive coordinator.
Go out
and I would do it. I actually would do it. Why? Because you got 6 young DBs, and there was. I mean, you still. I mean, yes, for all the decisions that Shanahan made, the Niner defense still allowed Mahomes to drive the length of the field with the season on the line and score. So it's not like Wilkes is some awesome, monster defensive coordinator and they'll be screwed without him.
But here's the thing. Mahomes is eventually going to find a way. The 49ers, their failure in this game was executed on special teams, which has been an eternal Kyle Shanahan blind spot. And his offense stunk when it needed to not stink. Again, Debo got better after the hamstring pull. So maybe, when you're talking about who's got to go, you got to cut some salary. You got to figure out things out. What if Debo is incredibly talented but overpaid, therefore overrated? George Kittle, but for his big play on 4th and gotta have it, I'm not even sure he was in Las Vegas. I mean, George Kittle vanishes for large stretches. And you know what great players do? You can take a half away from them. You can't take an entire game away from them. Patrick Mahomes showed you that. Travis Kelce showed you that. Travis Kelce had 1 catch for 1 yard at halftime. He ended up with 9 catches, and he led the team in receiving. He led the entire game in receiving yards, and all of it came on, the final drive of regulation and in overtime. When the chips hit the table, Travis Kelce is the man. Patrick Mahomes is the man. The 49ers turn into scared little boys when the money's on the table, and it's their head coach who, I mean, maybe that's you take on the personality of your head coach. That's what the Lions did all year. Super aggressive. Maybe the personality of their head coach is wrapping your own hands around your own neck and gagging away the biggest games of the year. That is the defining trait of Kyle Shanahan. I don't want to hear about what his regular winning percentage is.
Today you're firing Kyle Shanahan?
No, I'm not firing Kyle Shanahan, but I am doubting Kyle Shanahan in such a severe way. I mean, how about this? Let's say the stars align and they're in the Super Bowl again next year and they lose next year. You going to give him a 4th bite at that apple? I mean, he'd only be 45 years old, still a very young man in a lot of ways, but I don't know if I would give a coach a chance to lose a 4th Super Bowl. Kyle has been allowed to lose 2 Super Bowls here. And look, I don't think, unless you got a better idea.
There's 32 teams in the league. I mean, the Lions have never been to a Super Bowl. You're talking about blaming a coach for losing the Super Bowl. I mean, Andy Reid lost the Super Bowl with McNabb. Would you have dumped Andy Reid? Because now he's in Kansas City getting it done.
The Eagles did.
Right.
And they went on to win the Super Bowl.
I'm just saying they did, but I don't know if that was a good move for them. I mean, yeah, they've now dumped the guy they won the Super Bowl with. So, I mean, I don't know if that was a great move. They got rid of Andy saying he can't get it done. He goes to Kansas City, finds a better quarterback and a better GM, and gets it done 3 times.
What's with 4 false starts? What's with 4 false starts in this game? I couldn't believe that.
The Niners O-line was not good enough. And that's really what it came down to. I mean, Brock Purdy would have found Ayuk on the backside if he had time. but instead there was a blown protection up front, and he had no time to throw. So, there you go. But I mean, as far as Shanahan needs to wear, the fact that in the third quarter, they got away from the pass and they got away from the run and they got too pass happy with a lead in a huge game. And it's happened again. It's happened, multiple times. He's somewhat defined by that move right there. And then, of course, the OT decision is one that, it's indefensible. Your team didn't know the rules. And if your team didn't know the rules, it's because you didn't know the rules. And if you don't know the rules, it's a hard leg to stand on. So, and there's plenty of blame for Shanahan. I don't know that I would get rid of him as a coach. I don't think I would. But at the same time,
no, look,
there needs to be some major changes.
I'm not advocating for Kyle Shanahan to lose his job. But if I were Jed York, I'm telling him you need to win the Super Bowl next year desperately, because I don't know how much longer I can just go on hoping that you figure it out eventually. I mean, we have a significant sample size of big game failure from Kyle now, don't we not?
He has not climbed to the top of the mountain. He had a 28-3 lead when he was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. He had a lead of 10 points against the Chiefs in Miami. And now this one where, they just didn't do enough offensively, and, they had a major run advantage. They didn't take advantage of it. They let Kansas City hang around till the end, and they didn't get any luck from the officials. There's no question. The officials didn't help. The two most penalized tackles in the NFL, going up against Nick Bosa and the 49er defensive line, weren't penalized once.
Not once.
And there's multiple examples of them bear hugging guys. So it is what it is. And
what would Eddie D do?
He would be really, really pissed, but I don't think he would fire Shanahan.
I don't think Shanahan should be fired, but he needs to be put on the single most double secret probation a successful NFL head coach could possibly be put on. And again, when I keep on hearing from your players that you didn't explain the overtime rules, wow. I mean, that's just, I don't know how that would be survivable for anyone. I mean,
it's more, it doesn't really matter if they understand the overtime rules or not. It has much more to do with it's about strategizing. It's about when to take the ball. You had to know the rules yourself.
Well, you had to know what to say at the coin toss.
You had to know what to call. I mean, you won the coin toss. You should have deferred. Instead, you took the ball.
That means you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that
means I don't put, to me, it's much more on Kyle than for, the players just need to play ball. If you're a defensive lineman, sack the quarterback, stop the run. But if you're the head coach, you got to know the proper strategy. And he didn't. So there's no way. It's an indefensible position. It's why he's going to be dragged so thoroughly today, coast to coast, because the move that he made is indefensible.